The glass of red wine sat quietly on the table, catching the light like a pool of blood. The room was silent, too silent, and the air held that kind of stillness that only comes before a storm. He stepped in slowly, the old man in the restroom cleaner's uniform. Dark brown skin, wide shoulders, a faded cap on his head, and a silver cross hanging from a chain around his neck. His boots left a faint trail of dried mud across the polished wooden floor, but he didn't seem to care. His eyes were fixed on the wine. She was already there, standing by the balcony in a crimson dress that hugged her like a lie. Her name was Laya, and her smile, it was the kind that knew exactly how much damage it could do. "You're early, Mr. Kofi," she said, turning slightly so the city lights hit her cheekbones. "I thought restroom cleaners worked the night shift." He didn't answer, just walked to the table and picked up the wine glass, swirled it once, sniffed, a pause. Then his voice, calm, deep, and carved with something colder than age, broke the silence. "You put something in this." Laya didn't flinch. She let out a soft, airy laugh, one that carried more venom than humor. "Why would I?" she said. "You're just a restroom janitor. You clean toilets? You think someone like me would bother poisoning someone like you?" He stared at her for a long second. Then, slowly, he reached into his chest pocket and pulled out a badge, slid it across the glass table with steady fingers. On it, Kofi Mensah, restroom cleaner. His eyes met hers. No anger, just the weight of a man who had nothing to prove. "You thought I was just a cleaner," he said. "But I built this house, I built this firm, brick by brick, word by word. And the man you just tried to poison," he leaned in, voice steady, "is my son." The smile faded from her lips. Her throat moved, just slightly. And in that moment, Laya realized she hadn't just underestimated a restroom cleaner. She had picked a fight with a king before all of this, before the poison, the lies, the red dress, and the glass of wine. There was something much simpler. 3 months ago, it all began with a decision. A return, a plan. The building hadn't changed. 12 floors of polished glass and imported stone, rising proudly over the heart of Accra. The logo still gleamed above the entrance. Kofi and Sons, legal architects of Africa's future. People walked past it every day, some with admiration, some with envy, most with no idea whose name they were walking under. But Kofi Mensah remembered. He remembered when that name meant nothing. When he was fresh out of law school, carrying books barefoot through the muddy streets of Kumasi. He remembered the first office, barely big enough for a desk and a single fan. And he remembered how he built it. One case, one client, one impossible victory at a time. And now he was back. But not as the chairman, not as the man behind the empire. Today, Kofi Mensah walked through that lobby wearing a restroom cleaner's uniform. Faded navy blue, a name tag clipped to his chest that simply read, Mensah. He pushed a supply cart in front of him, loaded with brushes, bleach, and a battered mop. No one stopped him, no one looked twice. In this world, uniforms spoke louder than history. That was the point. He wasn't there for recognition. He was there to see what his legacy had become when no one knew he was watching. He was there for Malachi, his only son, and he was there to find her, the right woman, the one who would see Malachi not for the wealth he carried or the empire he would inherit, but for the man beneath it all, the boy Kofi had raised, the heart he had protected. And so the plan began. Each morning, Kofi arrived before dawn. He scrubbed bathroom floors, refilled soap dispensers, wiped mirrors until they gleamed. People walked past him, some kind, some careless, most indifferent. But Kofi watched. He saw who held the door open for others, and who let it slam. He saw who said thank you, and who never looked up from their phones. He saw how people treated the invisible, and that's when he first noticed her. She wasn't flashy. She didn't walk like she owned the hallway or dress like she had something to prove. But there was something about her, a stillness in her eyes, a fire just behind them. Sharp, but not angry. Calm, but not weak. Her name was Zola, a junior associate, second year, graduate of a small but respected law school in the northern region. No family in the city, no backers, no shortcuts. Just her briefcase, and her reputation. Sharp, steady, and clean. One morning, Kofi was wiping down the sinks in the executive restroom when he overheard them. 3 women in sharp suits and sharper perfume, whispering just loud enough to be cruel. "Who let that old man in here?" one sneered. "He's wearing that fake cross like it makes him noble," another laughed. "I bet he used to be rich and lost everything. Now he scrubs toilets like he still matters." They laughed, loud, cruel. Kofi kept cleaning, until one of them stepped forward and flicked his badge with her acrylic nail. "You trying to look important, old man? That little silver cross won't save you from being nobody." He looked up. But before he could say a word, another voice rang out. Enough. It was Zola. She stepped forward, arms crossed, voice cool, but unmistakably firm. "You don't talk to people like that." The trio turned, startled. "It's just a cleaner," one muttered. "No," Zola said. "He's a human being. And if you can't see that, maybe you're the one who doesn't belong here." The air shifted. The 3 women exchanged glances, then walked off, heels clicking fast on tile. Zola turned to Kofi. Her voice softened. "You all right, sir?" Kofi looked at her, really looked, and something deep in his chest moved. This was her. He didn't know her full story. Didn't know if she could love someone like Malachi. But he knew this. She had a spine, a heart, and most of all, a kindness that didn't ask for credit. He smiled gently. "I'm all right," he said. "Thanks to you." She nodded, already turning back to her work, unaware she had just passed a test, unaware she had just been chosen, unaware that the man she'd defended in the restroom wasn't just the cleaner, but the father of the heir. Later that day, while wiping down the restroom counters, Kofi paused. He watched Zola in the mirror's reflection. Focused, determined, her hair pulled back in a no-nonsense bun. She was reading a case file with the kind of intensity that made you believe the outcome mattered more than the paycheck. He cleared his throat, softly. "Excuse me, dear," he said. "May I have a moment of your time?" Zola looked up, immediately recognizing him. Her eyes softened. "Of course, sir. Everything all right?" Kofi stepped a little closer, leaning just slightly against his supply cart. Just enough to look weary, but steady. "I couldn't help but overhear your colleagues earlier," he said. "It seems you're single." Zola blinked, caught off guard. I suppose I am. Would you mind?" he continued gently. "Considering marriage to my son?" She laughed, nervous, uncertain. "That's very kind of you, but I'm not really looking for love right now. I've had my share of heartbreak. Better to focus on work." Kofi tilted his head, his voice low, thoughtful. "Heartbreak? You're much too young to carry that kind of weight." Zola hesitated. "My last relationship ended when I found out he was cheating. Not just anywhere, right here, in this building." Kofi's eyes narrowed, just slightly. "Then you were right to leave him," he said. "But I can assure you my son is not like that. He lost both his parents in a car accident when he was very young. I raised him myself. He's kind, thoughtful, loyal." Zola offered a polite smile. "That's sweet of you to say. I'll think about it," she said, half joking, half curious. Just then, the office door opened. A young man walked in. Simple clothes, striking features, kind eyes, confident, but humble. Zola looked up. "Grandpa," the young man said, his voice warm. Kofi smiled. "Tommy, there you are." He turned to Zola. "This is my grandson. He's starting today, internship." Tommy extended his hand. "Hi, I'm Tommy. Nice to meet you." Zola took it, her cheeks tinged with a faint blush. "I'm Zola. Welcome." As they shook hands, Kofi watched, his eyes gleaming. He didn't need spreadsheets, didn't need bloodlines or algorithms. This was the data that mattered. They had chemistry, and the test had just begun. Tommy's first day at the firm began without fanfare. No announcements, no special treatment. No one knew his last name. No one knew he was Malachi Kofi, heir to the firm, son of the founder. To them, he was just another intern, and that's exactly how he wanted it. He wore simple clothes, spoke only when spoken to, watched more than he said. But when he did speak, people listened. There was something about him. The way he processed information. The way he never tried to impress. The quiet confidence of someone raised on truth, not applause. Across the hall, Kofi smiled to himself as he polished the mirrors. His son had blended in well. The disguise held, but not everyone was impressed. In the break room, a group of junior lawyers whispered behind coffee cups. "He's handsome," one murmured, "but totally unknown. Probably a temp from a back-office recruiter." "And broke," another added. "Definitely not dating material." Zola walked in mid-conversation. She didn't say a word, but her glance, sharp and unimpressed, made them scatter. She poured herself some coffee, then looked up. Just as Tommy entered, he nodded politely. She hesitated, then gestured to the seat across from her. "You're on the Thompson case, right?" Tommy sat down. "Yes, assisting the lead associate." She raised an eyebrow. "That's me," he smiled. "Then I'm in good hands." She blinked, slightly caught off guard by his calm tone. "Well, I hope you're ready to work. This case has layers." "I like layers," he said simply. She arched a brow. "That's so. Better than pretending life's simple." She almost smiled. Across the hall, Kofi heard her laugh. Faint, but real, as he wiped down the restroom stalls. He dipped his sponge in the bucket and whispered to himself, "They're starting to get along." That afternoon, Tommy and Zola sat side by side for hours, drafting motions, combing through precedent. She was surprised. He picked up nuance quickly. He listened. He adapted. He was no ordinary intern. "You sure you've never worked in litigation before?" she asked. Tommy smiled. "I read a lot, and I listen." Zola shook her head, amused. "Well, keep this up, and I might actually request to keep you after the rotation." He grinned. "Best compliment I've gotten all year." And he meant it. As they walked out together that evening, Papa Kofi was still inside, mopping restroom floors, humming an old tune from his village days. The hallway lights flickered softly above him, and everything was unfolding according to plan. By the end of the week, the whispers had grown louder. "Zola's getting too close to the intern. I heard he walked her to her car. They're working late together, again." None of it surprised Zola. What did surprise her was how little she cared. There was something about Tommy, his quiet confidence, his quick wit, his ability to listen without interrupting, and the way he looked at her. Not like she was a project, not like she was a prize, but like he was genuinely curious about who she was when no one else was watching. One evening, while reviewing closing arguments, she asked him, "Why law?" He looked up. "What do you mean?" "You're good at this. Too good for an intern, so why law?" He paused, then said, "Because once, someone stood up for me when no one else did. I've never forgotten that." Zola tilted her head. "Family?" He smiled softly. "Something like that." Across the hall, Papa Kofi emptied a trash bin in the restroom. He heard every word, and he smiled too, but not everyone was smiling. Lucy, a senior associate with a reputation as sharp as her stilettos, had taken notice. She had worked too hard, played too many games, to let someone like Zola quietly climb past her. One afternoon, as Zola walked back from the copy room, Lucy stepped into her path. "Well, well," she said loudly. "If it isn't the firm's rising star, or should I say, rising by association?" Zola blinked. "Excuse me?" "Come on!" Lucy continued, voice dripping. "Don't play coy. Everyone knows interns don't land senior cases unless they've got help." Zola's jaw tightened. Tommy earned his place. Lucy leaned in, eyes gleaming. "You mean Malachi?" Zola froze. Lucy's smile widened. "Oh, he didn't tell you?" She tilted her head. "Maybe you should ask him his full name sometime." then turned on her heel and walked away, heels clicking like gunshots. Zola stood there, heart pounding. She didn't know what stung more, Lucy's smugness or the sudden chilling thought. What else had he not told her? That night, Zola sat at her desk long after everyone else had left. The office was still. Silent. Except for the distant hum of vacuum cleaners and the buzz of thoughts she couldn't shut off. Then, a soft knock. She looked up. Tommy stood there, 2 cups of tea in his hands. "I thought you could use one," he said. She took it, sipped, said nothing. A moment passed. Then quietly she asked, "Your full name? What is it?" He hesitated, then spoke. Malachi Kofi." She blinked. "Kofi, as in?" He nodded. "My father is the founder. I've been working here undercover. I didn't want anyone treating me differently." She stared at him. Hurt flickered in her eyes. "You should have told me." "I wanted to," he said. "But I was afraid if I did, everything between us would change." She looked away. "It already has." He didn't respond. He just stood there, quietly, waiting to see if she'd forgive him. And across the hallway, hidden in the shadows of the restroom door, Papa Kofi leaned on his mop handle, watching and wondering if this was the moment his plan would begin to break. The tension didn't break immediately. After the revelation, Zola kept her distance. She was still polite, still professional. But something had shifted. Her guard was back up. The same wall Malachi had spent 6 quiet weeks gently chipping away at. Papa Kofi noticed. He saw it in the way Zola no longer lingered in the hallways, in how her laughter, once easy around Tommy, now had the sharp edge of restraint. So, he nudged things forward. It started with a note, tucked under Zola's file folder one morning, written in clean, steady handwriting. "Don't let fear steal what kindness began. A friend who cleans close enough to hear everything." She read it, folded it, said nothing. But that night, she texted Tommy, "If you're still interested in coffee, I'm free Saturday." His reply came in under a minute. "I've been waiting 6 weeks to hear that." They met at a quiet cafe, tucked between 2 used bookstores. No one from the firm, no suits, no files, just them. Zola wore a denim jacket, her natural curls loose. Malachi wore a plain black tee and jeans, looking more like a university student than the future CEO of a top law firm. They talked for hours about everything but law, music, childhood, loss, joy. That one teacher who changed everything. That one scar they both carried but never spoke of. And somewhere between the 3rd cup of tea and the 4th shared laugh, something shifted. Not dramatically, just enough. At one point, Malachi reached across the table and touched her hand. Lightly, like asking permission. She didn't pull away. Instead, she looked at him and said, "You're not who I thought you were." He smiled. "Good." The calm didn't last. She walked into the firm like she never left. Heels clicking, designer bag swinging, perfume trailing behind her like warning smoke before a blaze. Laya, tall, poised, unforgettable. Some remembered her as the junior partner who resigned mysteriously 2 years ago. Others whispered of affairs, lawsuits, quiet payoffs. No one knew for sure. But one thing was certain. She was back, and she had a plan. Zola didn't notice her at first. Not until the elevator doors opened, and there she was. Standing there, with a smile too polished to be sincere. "Zola, right?" Laya tilted her head, just slightly. Zola nodded, slow. "Yes, can I help you?" "Oh no, dear," Laya purred. "I just wanted to see the girl everyone's talking about." Zola raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" Laya laughed, breezy, fake. "You've been quite the topic lately, rising fast. Favorite of the interns. Even caught the eye of a certain someone." Her voice trailed off, but the implication lingered. Zola didn't respond. She just stepped out of the elevator, and Laya watched her walk away, eyes sharp, calculating. That afternoon, Papa Kofi was restocking toilet paper in the executive restroom when he heard the name. Laya, one of the HR managers, whispering by the sink. She's not officially on the roster, but she's been in and out of meetings with senior leadership all week. Another replied, "Rumor is She wants back in, and she's not above playing dirty to get there. Kofi didn't move. He just folded the last stack of paper towels, then stepped into the hallway. He'd seen this before. Beautiful distractions, dressed like ambition, scented like danger, and they always came for the soul first, not the salary. He pulled out his old phone, typed one line into a draft message. She's back, and she knows. He didn't send it. Not yet. Later that night, Zola found a card slipped under her office door. No name, just a message. Handwritten in clean, deliberate strokes. Some women don't compete, they replace. Don't get comfortable. She turned the card over. Nothing. But when she looked out into the hallway, she saw it. The faint outline of Laya's silhouette, disappearing around the corner. And for the first time since meeting Malachi, Zola felt cold again. The trap was elegant. A missing file, a forwarded email, a client meeting with mismatched data Zola swore she had double-checked. But now, under the heat of confused glances and skeptical boardroom stares, none of it mattered. Zola looked down at the printed documents. Her signature was there. So were the edits. But none of it was hers. Across the table, Lucy leaned back, arms folded, lips curled, just slightly. "Well," she said coolly, "looks like someone's getting sloppy." Zola opened her mouth, but no words came. Her throat was dry, her hands cold. She'd been careful, always careful, which meant this wasn't a mistake. It was sabotage. After the meeting, Zola sat alone at her desk. Her screen stared back, blank and accusing. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Useless. She didn't cry. She never did. But her silence was louder than tears. Then, Malachi appeared beside her. He didn't speak. He just set a small bottle of water and a folded note on her desk. She opened the note. "I believe you." She didn't look up, just whispered, "Why?" He sat. "Because I've seen your work, your discipline, your integrity." Then, softer. "And because you defended a restroom cleaner when no one else would." Her lips trembled. "None of that matters if I lose everything." Malachi reached into his bag, pulled out a flash drive. "I made a copy of the project folder yesterday, before the edits." She stared at him. "Why?" He shrugged. "I'm paranoid." Then added, "Or maybe I just wanted a backup of something you touched." She blinked, then laughed, short, surprised. The first real laugh in days. Down the hall, in the quiet restroom, Papa Kofi wiped down the mirrors with deliberate care. He caught his own reflection, and in it, the faint smile of a man who knew the battle was coming. But this time, his side wasn't fighting alone. The next morning, the office buzzed. Whispers clung to the walls like mildew. Zola's in trouble. They're talking disciplinary action. Lucy brought the evidence herself. Malachi kept his head down, but inside, he was burning. At lunch, he slipped into the IT room. Badge still read, intern, but his fingers typed like a partner. He pulled server logs, email timestamps, edit histories, and there it was, Lucy's login credentials, accessing Zola's files, 1:42 a.m. 3 nights ago. He saved it all, then called his father. Papa Kofi answered on the second ring. "Is it her?" he asked. "Yes," Malachi said, "and I have proof. Send it to James. Have him deliver it to the managing partners, and stay quiet." Malachi hesitated. "What about Zola?" Kofi's voice softened. "She doesn't need hope, she needs results. Let's give her that first." That afternoon, an internal audit was suddenly announced. Lucy looked up from her desk, eyes narrowing. She knew. Across the floor, Malachi passed by Zola's office. He slipped a small post-it on her door. "Don't quit, not yet." She read it. Didn't smile, but she stayed. Down the hall, Papa Kofi scrubbed the floor of the executive restroom with slow, deliberate strokes. Near the sink, 2 senior partners were speaking. She accessed the files without authorization. Coached by Laya, apparently, who hasn't even been reinstated. "We'll need to make this public." Kofi wrung out his mop, then whispered, almost to the tile, "Not yet, let it sting first." He looked at the mirror, foggy with steam, wiped it clean. And in the reflection, he saw himself, not the restroom cleaner, not even the chairman, but the father of a son who finally understood what legacy meant. It happened on a Wednesday. Everyone had gathered for the weekly all-hands meeting. The usual updates, new clients, compliance reminders. Then, Malachi stood up, still wearing his intern badge, still dressed in modest clothes. But his voice? Steady, clear, no longer hiding. "Before we begin," he said, "there's something I need to say." The room went quiet. "I'm not just an intern. My real name is Malachi Kofi. I'm the son of Kofi Mensah, the founder of this firm." Gasps, whispers, disbelief. Then Lucy laughed, loud and sharp. "What kind of joke is this?" Zola sat frozen, eyes locked on him, but Malachi continued, undeterred. "I came here undercover to see this firm and the people in it, as they really are, and I learned a lot." He turned, eyes on Lucy. "Some of you lied, manipulated, framed the innocent." He reached into his bag, handed a folder to the managing partner. "Inside you'll find the evidence. Time-stamped logs, access records, everything that proves Zola was framed by Lucy and coached by an outsider named Leia." The partner flipped through the folder, eyes narrowing. Lucy stood. "You can't just—" A voice cut through. "You can sit down now." James, stepping in from the doorway, tailored suit, HR folder in hand. Effective immediately, Lucy is suspended pending investigation, and Leia has been barred from entering any Kofi and Sons property. Lucy's face twisted. "You don't understand." But this time, another voice cut through. "Papa Kofi." And not from the back, from the center. He stepped forward, took off his gloves. No mop, no uniform. No longer invisible. "I understand perfectly," he said. The room turned. Some gasped again. Kofi Mensah, founder, legend. The man who had been cleaning restrooms for 3 months. Zola stood slowly. "You were the restroom cleaner," she whispered. Kofi looked at her, his voice gentle. "No, I was your witness." He turned to the room. "I came to see how this place would treat those with no power. And what I found was Zola, the only one who defended a stranger without knowing who he was." He paused. "And I found my son again, not as an heir, but as a man." Silence. Then slowly, and so the room began to clap. Zola didn't move. Malachi walked to her, stopped just short. "I wanted to tell you," he said. "I tried, but I didn't want you to feel like any of this was fake." She looked up at him. "You married me under a different name." He smiled. "I loved you under my real one." A beat. Then she stepped forward, slowly, and took his hand. The applause faded behind them, and a new chapter began. The office was quiet. Too quiet. Even after the fallout, the firings, the truth, the applause, people still whispered. But now, it wasn't about Zola. It was about him, Malachi Kofi, the intern who wasn't, the heir who hid. And Zola? She didn't show up the next day, or the day after. She called in sick. Then, she stopped calling. Malachi stood outside her apartment 3 nights in a row. He didn't knock, didn't text. Just stood there. A man who once ran companies, now stilled by a closed door. On the 4th night, she opened it. She looked the same. But something behind her eyes was different. "Zola," he began. She raised a hand. "I just need to say this." He went silent. She took a breath, shaky, restrained. "You could have told me, maybe not at the beginning, but when we became something, I deserved to know." "I know," he said, "and you're right. You made me feel crazy," she said. "Like I was seeing something no one else did, and it turns out I was, because no one else saw you." "I didn't mean to hurt you," he said. "I was afraid that if I told you the truth, everything real between us would disappear." She looked away. A long pause. Then, "I need time." He nodded. "Take it." She looked back at him. "But don't walk away." "I won't," he said. "I'm right here." The next morning, she returned to the office. Not as a scandal, not as a rumor, but as herself, Zola. She didn't walk faster. Or slower. She didn't look at the gossipers. Didn't avoid the stares. She simply existed, head high, heart armored. And Malachi? He didn't rush her, didn't perform, didn't chase. He just waited. And across the hallway, Papa Kofi wiped down the restroom counters, humming low. He'd seen storms like this before. But this one had roots. And things with roots don't fall so easily. He didn't bring flowers. He didn't send gifts. He showed up at 6 a.m. outside the building where Zola caught the earliest bus to work. Hair still damp from the shower, eyes still heavy from sleep, and waited. When she stepped through the gates, she stopped. "Are you lost?" she asked, tugging her coat tighter. Malachi smiled. "No, just found." She raised an eyebrow. "You're starting with lines now?" He shook his head. "I'm starting over." They walked. No destination, no plan. Just two people sharing pavement and silence. "I lied to you," he said. "Not because I didn't trust you, but because I didn't trust that me, without the titles, without the name, would be enough." Zola said nothing. He continued. "But you saw me, when I had nothing to offer, and you didn't flinch." He stopped. She turned to face him. "I've been called a lot of things," he said. "CEO, rich boy, ghost. But the first time I wanted to be called something real was when you called me annoying over a legal clause." She smiled, small, involuntary. "Still one of the worst interns I've ever trained. And the luckiest," he said. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded piece of paper, handed it to her. She opened it. One sentence, "Let me earn your yes." Underneath, his signature. And below that, a date. 6 months from now. She looked up. "What is this?" "A promise," he said, "that I won't ask for anything until I've proven I'm worth it. 6 months, no shortcuts, just us. Real." "And after 6 months?" He smiled. "Ask me again." That evening, Zola told her mother. She didn't explain much, only said, "There's someone I want you to meet." Her mother, sharp, traditional, didn't blink. "When?" "This weekend." "And is he serious?" Zola paused. "He's the most serious man I've ever met." Sunday came. Zola opened the door to her childhood home, hand gently holding Malachi's. No suits, no grand gestures, just him, humble, quiet, present. Her mother studied him, long, in silence. Then, "You don't look rich." Malachi smiled. "Good," he said. "I didn't come to impress, I came to stay." She nodded, once. And in that silent exchange, he passed the first test. 6 months passed like breath. Not loud, not dramatic, just steady. There were no grand declarations, no headlines, just early coffees, shared glances, legal briefs passed with soft smiles, long walks that ended in longer hugs, arguments, sometimes sharp but never cruel, laughter, quiet, sudden, often healing. They became ordinary, and in that ordinariness, something extraordinary bloomed. One Sunday evening, Zola came home to find her apartment dimly lit, not with candles, but with old desk lamps. Each lamp lit up a file folder, and on each folder, a year. Her first internship, her mother's surgery, the year she almost quit law, the year she met him. She opened each one. Inside a note. Handwritten, honest. "This year, you survived. This year, you stood alone. This year, you became." She reached the final folder. No date, just her name. Inside, "Will you build the rest of your years with me?" And beneath it, not a diamond ring, but a small silver cross, the same kind Papa Kofi wore, but this one engraved, "Love, not power." Malachi stepped from the shadows. No suit, no script, just him. "I didn't want a moment," he said softly. "I wanted a memory." She didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just stepped forward and said, "Yes." They married under a tree. No cathedral, no ballroom. Just sky, just earth, just family. Zola wore no veil. Malachi wore no title. But when they said their vows, they looked like royalty. Papa Kofi stood in the front row, cross around his neck, hands trembling just slightly. When Zola stepped forward to speak, she paused, then turned to him. "Thank you," she said, "for seeing me when no one else did." He nodded. "You saw him first," he replied. "I just cleaned the hallway." As they exchanged rings, Malachi whispered, "No secrets this time." Zola smiled. No walls either. The wind rustled the leaves. And just like that, they weren't just husband and wife. They were survivors of ambition, of masks, of silence. They were builders of something not perfect, but real. It started with a question, not a dramatic one. Just Zola, barefoot in the kitchen, holding a wooden spoon in one hand and a white stick in the other. She turned to Malachi. half asleep on the couch, flipping through case files, and asked, "Do you want to be a father?" He looked up, at her, at the stick, at the silence that followed. And then he smiled. Not the kind that starts on your face, the kind that starts in your ribs and climbs. He didn't speak, just walked toward her, wrapped both arms around her waist, pressed his forehead to hers. "Only if it's with you," he said. Papa Kofi didn't cry when they told him. He just stared at the ultrasound picture in his wrinkled hands. Black and white, a little blur of life floating in the darkness. He looked at Zola, then at Malachi, then back at the image, and in a voice low and almost broken, he whispered, "He already looks like trouble." Zola laughed. Malachi chuckled. But Papa Kofi didn't move. He just held that photo like it was scripture. 9 months later, under the same tree where they had wed, Zola held a son wrapped in kente cloth and warmth. His name? Kofi Mensah Kofi. Kweku, for the day he was born. Mensah, for the man who swept floors to find a queen. Kofi, because blood may fade, but names endure. On the baby's first birthday, they didn't throw a grand party. They sat in the backyard. Just them, Zola, humming old songs, Malachi, bouncing Kweku on his knee, Papa Kofi, sitting under the tree, not saying much. Until suddenly, he cleared his throat. "I used to think legacy was about buildings," he said, "or money, or plaques." They turned toward him. "But now, I think legacy is about who shows up when you're no longer there." He looked at them both, at who loves without needing proof, at who fights without needing thanks. He nodded at Zola. "You are my legacy." Then to Malachi. "You are my correction." Then to Kweku, now giggling, drooling on his father's shirt. "And you are my second chance." That night, under stars older than kingdoms, Zola whispered to her son, "You don't have to be great, little one. You just have to be good, and kind, and brave enough to see people for who they really are." She kissed his cheek, and then softly, "And if you ever forget where you come from, ask the restroom cleaner, because that cleaner built an empire." Some stories don't need magic, just a restroom cleaner, a woman brave enough to see through silence, and a man willing to wait, without promises. If you've listened this far, maybe a part of you still believes that kindness matters, that no one is invisible if someone dares to look. So if this story moved you, subscribe to Tales of Black. Hit the bell, not for noise, but for the next quiet truth waiting to be told. And share this story, because someone out there may need to hear that they're still worthy of love, even if the world forgot. We'll meet again in the next tale where black stories speak and silence is broken. Thank you for staying until the very end. If this story stirred something in you, leave a like, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel. Tap the bell and let the next tale find its way to you, just when you're ready.